Portions of the following program may have been pre-recorded.
The following program's views, claims, or ideas may not reflect those of WSRR Radio or StylesRebelRadio.com.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Behind Enemy Lines right here on WSRR Radio, supporting local and independent music. This machine kills monopolies. We are nationally local, meaning we play your local bands on a national stage, and this is your Cleveland Sports Talk Show from Pittsburgh. I'm Luke Storazio, joined as always by Dom Farrow. We are recording on March 20th, Thursday, day one of the real March Madness kickoff. You know, we had the first four games last week, but today is the day that the madness really ensues. So unfortunately, we've only got one day in. We're recording at 8 o'clock, so really we don't even have the entire day in. But McNeese was the big story of day one, knocking off Clemson, which I had on my bracket. I don't know if you had it on your bracket, but if you didn't have a bracket in with WSRR Radio, that means you missed out on your chance to win a shirt from genericclothes.com. So next time, follow the WSRR Instagram, stay up to date with everything that we're doing, because we're doing some fun stuff. We do some giveaways, some contests. So make sure you tune into that. Me and Dom both had our brackets in. So also shout out to everyone else who submitted a bracket. Only two people in the pool had St. John's winning the bracket, winning the national championship. And you're going to hear from both of them tonight, me and Dom. Dom,
that's right.
What do you think about our brackets and how we're looking so far? Did you have McNeese beating Clemson?
I did have McNeese beating Clemson. At first, I didn't. I made a lot of brackets. I made exactly, I think, 13 brackets this year. This is the most I've ever made.
I made one.
Most of them weren't in groups. I'm only in two groups. The WSRR Behind Enemy Lines tournament for this lovely t-shirt. Lucas, you're in first place right now. Some people are saying that this is a rigged tournament. You got 100% so far. You got some big booms. That's here. Awesome. He's falling I haven't even looked at footsteps of the Rizzler. And he's looking pretty good right now. I think things are going to get a little interesting right now. We're filming at a good time. There are a lot of good games going on right now. And tonight, Arkansas and Kansas is looking like a good one. Yale, Texas A&M. March Madness is just the best time of the year. It doesn't get better than this.
It does not.
What do you think about
it was S tier on our Days in Sports as a Sports Fan tier list. If you haven't listened to that, go back on Spotify and listen to that, because we had a real banger of that. You were going to say something. I cut you off per usual.
I was going to say, what did you think about my group name, or my bracket name in the WSRR pool?
I know I saw
Don Patino.
The Don Patino.
Don Patino.
And
that was a little reference, a little shout out to The Godfather, a little shout out to the Rizzler for watching The Godfather. If you've been listening to the pod, you know what we're talking about. And then, of course, Rick Pitino, The Godfather, in St. John's. That's who we've got winning the tournament. It's a bit of a, they're probably not in the top 10 of favorites to win the whole thing, but there's certainly a shot. And with that veteran leadership from none other than Rick Pitino, anything's possible in this tournament.
The Godfather of college basketball cannot skew us in the wrong way, lead us in the wrong way. I don't know where I went skew there, but whatever. You mentioned it already. The Rizzler put in his bracket. You get all your Rizzler content right here. So we got to talk about that. The Rizzler puts his bracket in, and he also has the Johnnies winning it all. He also had McNeese winning in the first round over Clemson. He has Yale going to the Final Four. As we speak, Yale is down 11 to Texas A&M, the 4 seed. Yale is a 13 seed. So I don't know if that one will come through. Arkansas, Dom's Arkansas Razorbacks up 3 at halftime on Kansas. We'll see how that goes out. And Drake, the Bulldogs, up 2 on Missouri. Dom, I know you said you like Drake coming into this one.
Yeah, so this WSRR pool is $1. The other bracket that I have, $25. That's the only other one I'm doing for money. And that one, unfortunately, after all this I've been saying about Rick Pitino and St. John's, I have Drake beating St. John's and going on
Wow.
a deep run into this tournament. That's how good I feel about them. They haven't had a lot of tough opponents this year, but I believe they only lost 3 games this entire season. They played a difficult style of basketball, a style that I think would give St. John some problems. So I like Drake a lot right now. Need him to get through this first round against Missouri, though. So I'm going to be on the edge of my seat here while we're recording tonight.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a good one. Let's go over some of the other highlights, if my computer will work, of the Rizzlers bracket. Oh my goodness, this is the smallest picture of all time. Why is it so small? All right, he's got
basically the Rizzler doesn't miss.
No, he doesn't. I mean, he hasn't yet. Again, we're not very far in, but
and he never will.
As of right now, he has not missed. Colorado State beating Memphis in round 1, another 12-5
Love
upset.
that.
Norfolk State beating Florida in the first round, 16-1. That is the one that's going to stand out. Where if that's right, it's like the Rizzler. He's on the take. He knows what's going on. He's got inside info.
He's pretty much Nostradamus if he gets that right. If he goes like 8 for 8 and he gets the 16/1, I mean, just miss once, please. Just miss once, Riz.
Not a
We're
chance.
begging.
I wouldn't hold my breath. Dom, you kind of said it before we recorded. Like, what if the Rizzler has the first ever perfect March Madness bracket? Like, how much fucking aura can one guy have at the age of like
Could
9?
you imagine?
Like, insane.
Could you imagine? It would be unreal, but somehow in this like world that feels like a simulation, it would be like one of the least surprising things. If anyone were to get the first perfect one, it has to be the guy with the unmatched aura.
Yeah.
In the Rizzler himself.
I saw a tweet the other day. It was just a picture of him standing there doing something wacky, and someone quote tweeted it and just said, "I'm just so glad we made this guy famous. He's awesome." One of the other interesting
picked
ones
the right one.
is that he has Wofford beating Tennessee at 15-2 upset, and right now they're down 13. So we'll see how that plays
Yikes.
out. He's got Xavier
What was he
beating
cooking?
Illinois 11-6. He has McNeese beating Purdue next round 2. Actually, he has McNeese going to the Final Four, which is
Love
also
that.
interesting. He's got a 13 and a 12 seed going to the Final Four.
I mean, anything can happen in March Madness. There's a reason why no one has gotten a perfect one. It's because no one has the guts to make those type of picks.
Now, Dom, the more I'm looking at it, I am seeing that he's already he is off on one. He picked Georgia over Gonzaga, and Gonzaga did lose.
No.
Or excuse me,
You're
Gonzaga
kidding.
won. So
You're kidding me.
he's done for. But I
It's
had
over.
that. I had Gonzaga winning, so that's why I'm still
So,
perfect. He also has
Maybe you can be the first.
That's right. Maybe I will be. He also has Robert Morris. You know, this is a Pittsburgh based show. He
Let's
has
go.
Robert Morris, Bobby Moe, the Colonials beating Alabama, the Crimson Tide, another 15-2 upset. I don't know if he has a single 2 seed winning. He doesn't, does he? He has Bryant
Wow.
beating Michigan State. He has St. John's beating Omaha. That's the only
That's
2 seed he has winning in the entire first round. That's hilarious.
What in the world was he cooking? He's a fascinating guy, and I was thinking about something today. We talk about him a lot on this show, and we know this is a sports-focused show, but I was thinking if we just pivoted full into Rizzler show, I mean, that would have to. People would have to be talking
We
about
might be
that.
more marketable if we were. It's kind of like
It's way more niche.
I don't know if you've ever seen it, but the Talk to a podcast, there's that, and then someone made, I think it was kind of a parody TikTok account, and like I don't know if they actually did it, but I think they might have. They did like hour-long episodes called Talking Talk Tua, and it was just 2 guys sitting on a couch with glasses of wine, and like it was very clearly like comical and being a parody, but like it was ironic, but like they did a full episode talking about what's her name, Haley Welsh, is that it?
Yeah,
And
they were basically like, why did she say
yeah,
this instead of this?
they were like, the
and really
philosophical
analyzing it.
standpoints of Haley and her co-host are
Yeah.
really clashing here, and I think this is where you see that this show is not like any others where you see 2 buddies getting along. These are differing viewpoints, and we're seeing head-to-head combat on the intellectual level that we don't see anywhere else. stuff like that.
And they were doing numbers.
Yeah, they
Those guys were doing numbers.
And then Talk To Us stopped making podcasts, and now
That's
they're nowhere to
right.
be found. Now they break down MD Foodie Boys stuff, I think, which
Oh, nice.
which is another spectacular TikTok
Yeah.
or excuse me podcast.
It's really interesting how some of these like young influencers are, it's cool, while others you see like Baby Gronk, it's like, get that out of my face now.
Well,
It's like, I don't like this.
I feel like we've talked about this in the past. Maybe we've talked about it off camera because we do talk about him so much. But like the Rizzler, like you can feel he's genuine. Like I feel like you mentioned that about his dad. Like, and there's all these old videos of like him and his grandpa, which I don't know if his grandpa's still kicking. I hope so because all the ones I see of him are hilarious. But
He raised him right.
yeah, he really did. Like, but you can tell that like it's genuine. They're like a genuine family. Whereas like there's clips of like Baby Gronk's dad. Like I don't know if you've ever seen this, but someone was like on a podcast with him or whatever, and like they asked like, "Oh, Baby Gronk, what do you think about whatever?" And he just like kind of gave like a normal answer, and then his dad was like, "Ask me again, and this time say this to like be more controversial." And it was like, "Oh, I'm better
Yeah.
than Gronk" or something like that. And
Now, to be fair,
You could just
there
tell.
were some behind the scenes videos of like Big AJ being like, no, we do it like this. I say boom, and then you say doom.
there were, but at the same time, I kind of like that one. I feel like people were like, "Oh man, we're gonna see a documentary about like the work
The
conditions
abuse.
of AJ Boom Fumo and Big Justice." But I
What a
feel
name.
like one, they had a guest on, and it was also a guy who like I've never seen his content except for like through reaction videos. It was a guy who kind of like gets off on being annoying. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
feel like he like had to rein it in and make sure that it was still kids content and it was still like the way that they wanted to do it. So maybe it was a little tense on that set, but he kind of had to do what he had to do. I understand that. But Rizzler, we don't see any of that. I feel like his dad knows I feel like his dad too is more hands off, where he's just like, this kid knows what he's doing. I'm just gonna let the camera roll and let him do the magic,
And that's the thing. Like all of, I like AJ and Big Justice. They seem like good enough guys, but it's heavily produced. You can tell.
Yeah.
Like Rizzler, they just open the camera, they record, and they post it. There's no.
They're walking around a
putting
grocery
captions.
store, just firing it off at will.
Like I saw a video today. It didn't even make any sense. But like you could tell that idea came from a child's mind, and that's just authentic right there.
Yeah.
And here's another thing. Do you think today there are more like kid influencers / celebrities than ever before?
Ooh, I don't know if there's more, because like you think about it, like in the past there was, I mean, like the Sprouse twins from Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, like Miley Cyrus.
Miley
Does she count
Cyrus.
as a kid? Like she was a kid,
For sure.
Macaulay
Yeah.
Culkin was huge, obviously, like, being in Home Alone. I think every generation kind of has them, but they're different now because they're not as many of them are like trained actors and whatever. They're just, which is also, I mean, that's kind of also how our culture is now. There's more people who are famous for nothing, pretty much. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
I think
Is there
there's
more,
a weird.
though?
I think there's a weird time span between like post Disney Channel, like what you're talking about, like the Sprouses and Miley Cyrus. Was that like post 2014, 2013 to like the TikTok era? All these kid influencers, they really were like in between, like this new stuff and that old media. Like apparently, like Jake Paul was on Disney Channel.
Yeah, he was.
But nobody was watching that
People
stuff. People had already shifted. People had already started shifting onto the online. They weren't really celebrities like a Macaulay Culkin or a.
See, I think you're
Miley
saying that, but
Cyrus.
it's also because we're too old to have seen that. Like people,
Yeah, but
a generation
Now
and a
we're-
half above us probably didn't see Miley Cyrus on Disney Channel. Really, you know what I mean? Like,
but now we're even older now though, and now we're like Rizzler every episode.
Yeah, but that's different because, I don't know. Maybe it's not different. But if he was on Disney
That's what I'm
Channel,
saying,
we
there's
wouldn't know
some
who
shift.
he is.
Yeah.
Like same
I don't
thing
know
with
though.
like Sabrina
He
Carpenter.
might capture my attention.
Like Sabrina Carpenter's huge. She was on Disney Channel. Olivia Rodrigo, she
Yeah.
was on Disney Channel. Same thing with, she was on the same show as Jake Paul, actually. I'm pretty sure.
But they were like nonsense. Like nobody, they mean nothing.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
does
everything
Hannah
does,
Montana
but-
mean everything? Does that
In
mean
the
something?
I feel like it means more.
Do you
like,
think
as a-
Hannah
as a
Montana had a
cultural,
cultural impact on?
more of one? Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. Maybe we'll see, because that generation that watched that show though are still too young to make a cultural impact, right? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe not.
Well,
How old are they?
Maybe because Jake Paul is the number one boxer in the
I
world.
was gonna say,
maybe
look
they
how
did
big
that.
Jake and Logan Paul are right now, though. Look how big
Yeah, they're
Olivia
bigger than
Rodrigo is.
all them.
Sabrina
Yeah.
Carpenter's like the number one pop star right now, kind of, right?
I think so, but at the end of the day, no one is bigger than the Rizzler.
No one is bigger aura-wise, and soon, unfortunately, might be physically as well. 216-859-8699. Let us know your thoughts on child celebrities. We'll be right back on Behind Enemy Lines.
Hi, this is Melissa,
And hey, it's Matt.
coming at you from Synergy Music Studio.
We are a recording and production studio located on the south side near Chicago.
Check us out online at synergymusicstudio.com. We offer recording, mixing, and mastering.
And follow us on Instagram at Synergy Music Studio. Rock hard.
If LimeWire taught us anything, your digital music is free and open to piracy, and even manipulation when it comes to digital distribution. So why settle for a bunch of ones and zeros floating around on the internet? Make your release something special with Hellbender Vinyl. Hellbender is one of America's most trusted custom vinyl record pressing plants and works with local artists to get their next release pressed exactly to their liking. So check out Pittsburgh's first and only custom vinyl pressing plant today by visiting hellbendervinyl.com to get started. And don't forget, all customers at Hellbender Vinyl get 5 free test presses at no additional charge. Hellbent on quality, hellbent on service, hellbendervinyl.com.
Welcome back to Behind Enemy Lines right here on WSRR Radio. WSRR Radio and this year's March Madness Bracket Challenge are brought to you by GenericClothes.com.
You know, Lucas, I got a question for you. What's the difference between the shirt you're currently wearing and the one that I am? Well, guess what? I'll tell you, both do their job in concealing us from the outside world and social boundaries, but one little black swoosh makes yours cost nearly double. That red rectangle may not change how warm you are, but certainly changes the price tag. The truth is, nobody cares about the details. Get to the point with GenericClothes.com. Have a laugh at the big brand clothing company's expense with shirts that simply say sports team, political statement, music band, and more. A shirt for any occasion and the perfect gift, GenericClothes.com. And I can't wait to get my hands on this t-shirt that they're putting up for grabs in this WSRR March Madness pool. And that's what we're here talking about today on this fine program.
That's right. You walk around with a t-shirt that simply says contest winner on it. That just shows, like, you walk through any social setting with that and they're like, that guy
He knows
That
ball.
guy won a contest. That guy knows ball. That guy has aura. And aura is what's bringing me back to talking about McNeese and how they upset Clemson in the first round. McNeese has must-see content, but not from any of their actual basketball players. Rather, their manager, Amir Aura Khan, as he leads the team's walkouts. Really, just look up any McNeese hype video. Really, if you just Google McNeese right now, this is going to come up. There was a video after a big win for them, and he was carrying a big boombox. Actually, he might not have been carrying it in that video, but today when he walked them out, he was carrying a boombox. He was rapping every lyric to this song. The players were hyping him up. Amir Khan is getting an NIL deal, I believe, actually. He is the unexpected star of March Madness, and it just makes it so much better that they did come up with a win, because now the story of him is going to go on a little bit more. I feel like last year, you kind of said last week, like, there's always someone who arises in March Madness who, like, people think about. Last year, it was the big guy from NC State. I forget his name now, but he's DJ Burns. That's right. He's playing somewhere overseas. I forget if it was in Europe or Asia, actually, but he's playing somewhere professionally.
Yeah, I think South Korea.
Yeah, that's right. South Korea. They also had the guy from Oakland. What was that white guy's name? He shot a bunch of threes.
Jack Goki or Golki.
Yes, that's right. Jack Goki. He's actually on an NBA team, I believe. I think he might be in the G League somewhere. I saw a highlight from him that he was shooting the lights out at some point, but I may even be misremembering it. But we're getting someone who's not even a player now, who has all this aura around him in Amir Khan, and I feel like he's kind of right now one of the stories of March Madness. I'm trying to think of any other times where that's really happened. The one that comes to the forefront of my mind is Loyola Chicago with Sister Jean. Yeah, is that what you were going to say as well?
100%.
Sister Jean.
100%. It's Sister Jean.
Sister Jean she has aura as well. I actually got to see Sister Jean live last, what was that, 3-4 years ago maybe?
It's 3 years ago, yeah.
Loyola Chicago, who's now in the A10 actually. Surprised we haven't seen her more. I guess we'd probably have to go to Chicago to see them play the Dukes, but poor showing from the A10 this year.
That is true. Just VCU making the tournament, quick out from them to BYU. Yeah. Dukes beat BYU in the first round last year. VCU couldn't do it.
No, they could not. But we got to see Sister A10. Jean a couple years ago. Ohio State played Loyola Chicago. Right? That was who was playing them. I think so. And she was there. She was in attendance. The game was at PPG in Pittsburgh. I got to see with my own two eyes Sister Jean, and it was a blessing. It was a true blessing. But Amir Khan this year is the story of the tournament thus far, and I hope McNeese keeps going to see his. I feel like if they go to the Final Four or something, there's going to be clips of him cutting down the net, instead of any players.
Oh, yeah, 100%. He's definitely the star. And the legend has been growing. Like you said, I think he knows every single lyric to any Kodak Black or Future song, it seems like. He fires the team up. If you look up Amir McNeese on Twitter, you'll find all these great videos. He's been getting one-on-one interviews. He's a national sensation, and if they continue this run, and I really do think they can, they beat Clemson today, and I think in the next round, don't have it off the top of my head, but I think it's another favorable matchup for this team where I think they could be the Cinderella story this year, the Cinderella team that everyone's talking about.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they look good there. I'm trying to find it now. Where's
Purdue?
See, like you
Purdue,
said,
Purdue always loses.
The desktop bracket is no good. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I had to pull it up on my phone. The desktop version is useless. I hate it.
I agree. Purdue, unfortunately, put down High Point today. High Point came in with one of the biggest win streaks in the nation. I think they had won 18, 19 games in a row. And
wow.
But they lose today to Purdue, who's the 4 seed. So now McNeese moves on to play Purdue. I have Purdue winning that game in our WSRR bracket, and then them losing to Gonzaga, who beats Houston in my bracket, of course. Houston did beat SIUE. I don't know what that school is, but it's CUE. And they handled them. They beat them by 38, Dom. Gonzaga beat Georgia by 21. That's going to be a good matchup in the second round. Number 1 versus an 8 seed.
SIU Edwardsville. I have no clue where that is.
What's
Would've
SIU?
Been a fun story.
Staten Island?
That's a good guess right there. I'm gonna have to look up this SIU Edwardsville. Southern Illinois University Edwardsville.
Where the hell is Edwardsville?
Good on them for making the tournament.
I would hope it would be in Illinois. Were they one of the first 4 teams? I wonder. I'm not sure. But anyways,
very, very interesting.
We've seen some interesting things right now. Arkansas still up 1 on Kansas with 8 minutes left. we'll be keeping eyes on all of these games. Drake is up 7 at halftime on Missouri. Texas A&M up 11 on Yale as it stands right now at 8:53 p.m. on Thursday, March 20th. And with that, we'll move away a little bit from college basketball, unless you got something else on it, Dom.
One more fun fact about Edwardsville, Illinois. It's basically in St. Louis, Missouri. It's like right on the edge of Illinois. So yeah, it's basically in St. Louis. Fun fact for all the listeners out there.
When I think of Missouri and St. Louis, I think it's south. It's not, is it? My geography's terrible.
Well, I mean, I'd consider it the south.
But I would consider Illinois north.
Well, then you also got to think about like Kentucky. What do you think Kentucky's the south?
Yes. I would, but then again,
West Virginia's the north, right?
I don't know, because Kentucky I would consider southern, but they're bordering Ohio. You know, Cincinnati is in Kentucky, so I obviously wouldn't consider Ohio a southern state.
It's all up to debate. Some say Pittsburgh is a Midwestern.
I would agree with
city.
that. I 100% agree with that. I think Philadelphia is an East Coast city. Pittsburgh is a Midwestern city because like Ohio is in the Midwest. Pittsburgh's on the western side of Pennsylvania, which is a long state, by the way. So I always consider Pittsburgh
a long boy.
A Midwestern city, especially. I just feel like the culture around Pittsburgh and like some of the way that people act reminds me a little bit of Midwestern. I think they're like they're very Eastern Midwestern, but they're still Midwestern, you know. They're not Iowa.
It's really it's Eastern, Mid-Atlantic, Midwest, Appalachian. It's all these type of weird.
Yeah. You got like West Virginia right there. You got people from Ohio in there, you know, like it's a real melting pot here where the three rivers converge.
Melting pot of blue collar folk.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Those blue collar folk now do have a new quarterback, by the way, shifting to NFL talk. And it's not a new quarterback, but an old quarterback, actually, as Mason Rudolph signs with the Steelers. He's back in the black and gold, back in Pittsburgh. He kind of just got shit on for years being in Pittsburgh, but was always there and kind of seemed like a bit of a steady hand. Honestly, as a Browns fan, I always was a little bit afraid of Mason Rudolph. I didn't like to see him coming in. I feel like he's a big-armed guy. He's a big guy. He kind of reminds me of like a very, very poor man's Ben Roethlisberger. I feel like you're going to be pissed that I say that, but like he has similar physical attributes to Big Ben, does he not?
Yeah, maybe, but again, he's a poor man's version. He's definitely not as big. Doesn't have as big of an arm. Personally, I'm not a big Mason Rudolph fan. I think maybe he should have gotten a shot earlier in his career to be the starter, but I think that ship has sailed. 2 years ago, he played really good in the final 3 games of the season, and for some reason that makes Steelers fans seem like he is the guy. And I think if they brought him in here to be a starter, which it doesn't seem like that is their plan, but if things don't go their way with Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, you know, he could be their starter next year, and I think that's a joke. And a lot of Steelers fans think that, from what I've seen, a lot of Steelers fans think that this is a good idea for the Steelers and that Mason Rudolph gives them a good shot at winning. I don't. I think I'm going crazy seeing people saying this stuff. It seems like we're moving back in time. I think it feels like we're the Colts. We're after Andrew Luck. You're just bouncing from bad option to bad option to bad option. Carson Wentz to Gardner Minshew to, you know, Phillip Rivers, all these, Matt Ryan. There's so many like bums in between that you know that they're like good and maybe they
now
had
Daniel
potential
Jones.
at one point, but they're never going to win you anything. Yeah, exactly. It's just, I feel like we're going in this spot where we're going crazy, picking in the middle of the drafts every year, and we just can't get a guy. And I don't want to stay on this path for another 7 years like the Colts have been on.
Now, I saw I think the Mason Rudolph signing is interesting. I think that he can come in and give average quarterback play to where he can be like a game manager. Obviously, this team and this franchise are kind of built around their defense. And they still have a pretty damn good defense. They still have the guy that you guys think is the best in the league in TJ Watt. A perennial defensive player of the year candidate, and they have a bunch of other really good outside linebackers and inside linebackers and good DBs, especially now adding Darius Slay. Still have Minkah Fitzpatrick. Cam Hayward's holding it down in the middle. I think he can be an all right option at quarterback. I think it's interesting that I saw a mock draft this week that I thought I wanted to get your take on. I didn't know if it was Mel Kiper or one of those NFL analysts, but they had Jackson Dart going at number 22 to the Steelers. What's your opinion on that? Like, is it draft a quarterback at that spot, or would you rather see them trade up or just wait till next year because this is a weak quarterback draft? What's your take on the drafting a quarterback party?
Yeah, I'd much rather wait until next year. This draft seems exactly like the Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis draft, where none of these guys, deep down, we all know that none of these guys are going to be superstars in the NFL. Last year, we thought that Caleb Williams had a good chance. We thought that Jaden Daniels had a good chance. This one, we all know that it's probably not going to happen. So I'd much rather not draft Jackson Dart. I don't know a ton about him. I didn't watch a lot of Ole Miss. I'd have to watch a lot more, but I did see that. I think it was Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft. I don't see that happening, but Omar Khan is definitely a different general manager than the Steelers have had in the past, so anything is possible.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting. I agree. I don't think this is a good quarterback draft. That's why, like, for the Browns, I think the biggest thing the best thing they can do is just show a little bit of restraint and just don't blow your load on a quarterback. Like, that's what I mean. I feel like every year, like, they just don't see like the bigger picture of like who's actually there. And I feel like every single year it happens in the draft. Like, a guy who really coming at the end of the college football season, people are like semi high on, or they're like, yeah, maybe he could work out. By the time April comes around, they're like, oh, he's a surefire top 10 pick. It's like he hasn't played a game since then. Nothing has changed except for he worked out, and like he looked good in workouts. And like, yeah, I understand you can get some stuff from that, and there have been people who have been discovered through the combine and pro days and stuff like that. But for the most part, like, nothing has changed. You know what I mean? It's the same guy that played college football for 4 or 5 years, whatever it was, you know, that played in October or December, however long whenever the season ends. Definitely not October. I don't know why I said October. But, and yeah, I think that, like, just because there's no football going on and, like, people, like, overthink it, and now all of a sudden Jackson Dart's a first-round guy and he can be a franchise guy, whereas, you know, 2 months ago it was like, no, Jackson Dart's going to go in the third round. And I think that the Browns can really show some maturity and not take a quarterback at 2, but at the same time, I think they're gonna. I saw that they're holding a private concert at the stadium for only season ticket holders, and Journey is playing at it. And someone quote tweeted it and said, they're definitely taking a quarterback. They're not doing this for Abdul Carter. And I kind of agree. Like, I kind of agree.
Yeah.
They think they're going to get their new franchise guy.
Wow. Yeah, that's actually an interesting take. But there was some big news that they just announced with that new stadium, right? Wasn't that somewhat, maybe that's what they're hyping up? You never know.
I think it's still actually up in the air about whether or not they're going to have it there, because there's some taxpayer issues. Taxpayers want to keep it in Cleveland. Taxes are going to go way up in Brook Park if they do decide to build a stadium there instead of downtown Cleveland. I still think there's a lot of people who want it to be in downtown Cleveland. Like, you know, there's tons of teams who don't really play in the city that's next to their names. New York, no one plays in New York. They play in New Jersey. Dallas, they play in Arlington, Texas. There's tons of teams like that, but Cleveland really wants to, a lot of people in Cleveland really want to keep it, you know, in Cleveland. But so I don't know. We'll see about that. Another thing that makes me think that the Browns are unfortunately going to draft a quarterback is that I saw an interview with Myles Garrett, and It was the guy who has the huge ears. Is that Andrew Siciliano?
I don't know.
I think it is. He said, Miles, like, you changed your mind. You said you wanted to win here. Like, who is going to be the quarterback next year? And he said, he pretty much was like, I'm very excited about it, the quarterback who we're going to have next year. Like, we've talked inside. Like, I have obviously insider information, and like, I wouldn't be back if I didn't think we could win next year with the guy who's going to be playing quarterback. And then he pretty much was like, okay, so who is it? Can you tell me? He's like, I can't tell you that. Since, I don't even know if that was before or after the Kenny Pickett signing, but like right now, Kenny Pickett's the only healthy quarterback on the roster. And there's no way that's who he's talking about, right? So I feel like that cryptic message really made it seem like they're going to draft a guy.
I think it could be. He could be talking about Kenny Pickett, or maybe he was misled. I think GMs do that all the time with re-signing guys. Oh, we're going to get this guy. We're going to do this.
Possibly.
But they also, Myles Garrett, all these players, they have to say this type of thing. They can't be like, I don't know. It's probably going to be a down year
for
us
I'm just coming back for the
money.
money.
Can't say that. Yeah. I just became the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. Can't say that. So I think he really had to say that. Kenny Pickett might have to be the guy, but the question is, who would be the backup? Like you said, the only healthy quarterback is Kenny. Do you bring back Jameis, or do you think that ship has sailed? Do you think his time is done?
Unfortunately, I think it has sailed. Jameis is reportedly supposed to meet with the Giants, so we'll see how that goes. Jameis throwing to Malik Neighbors would be must-see TV, in my opinion, but we'll see what happens.
So who is the Giants? Giants, I think I saw they re-signed Tommy DeVito.
They do. They have Tommy DeVito. He's on the roster. I don't know if they have anyone else on the roster. Is Drew Lock still there?
Yeah. Wouldn't surprise me. He could be anywhere, honestly.
He is a guy who could be anywhere. The other thing about Myles Garrett's statements, by the way, going back to the Browns really quickly before we go to break, is that like it's not like there's any free agents out there right now other than maybe Aaron Rodgers who like a guy would say that about, right? Like Kirk Cousins is out there still, Russell Wilson's out there still, Aaron Rodgers is still out there. All three of those guys, though, nearing the end of their careers, aren't really going to like have someone be like, oh yeah, seemingly at least, aren't really going to have a guy who's like, I need to play with this guy. I need to stay because this guy's going to help us win a championship this year. It's the potential's there, but I just don't think for the Browns. And again, like you said, he kind of has to say those things. He can't say like, doesn't matter who's playing quarterback, we're going to suck.
Yeah. They're in a tough situation. The draft is going to be very interesting. What are we? We're less than a month away. April 20th, maybe the week after. Another S tier. I don't think you agreed with an S tier on our previous.
I think I did
2 episodes ago.
I did.
Yeah, you think we put it there?
We did end up putting it there.
But yeah, it is the best.
It is, because like I said, everyone wins the Super Bowl on draft day. Everyone is a Super Bowl champion on draft day. That's the best part about it.
That's right.
That's the best part about it. And then you go and you watch college highlight tapes. At least I remember years ago when you would go back and watch the college highlight tapes of the guys that they drafted. I specifically remember when the Browns drafted Johnny Manziel, that me and my family traveled to Italy a couple weeks after, and me and my brothers were sitting in this like pretty much like an apartment Airbnb type thing in Rome, and it was kind of just like a chill day. We'd been there for like a week already. We were just hanging out in the apartment, and we got someone had an iPad, and we were just looking up highlight tapes of guys that we drafted. We watched the Johnny Manziel highlight tape. We watched Justin Gilbert. He was in that draft class. There was I feel like there was a receiver or two that we watched. Of course, all of them sucked, but we watched all of them and we're like, we're going to be awesome this year.
We got some guys.
We got some dudes.
Those videos, those highlight videos are always great. When you see the comments, it's like, brother, welcome to Pittsburgh.
Yes.
It's like, welcome to Steeler Nation. And then 2 years later, they're tweeting out, I'm like, get out of here. Get out of town.
Jersey swaps have gotten too good. I liked when, like 10 years ago, when you would go on Twitter or Instagram and see like a terrible jersey swap where it's like very clearly Photoshop. seeing Johnny Manziel in a Browns uniform. That's the stuff I miss, and that is why, draft day is definitely an S-tier day in sports. 216-859-8699. Let us know your favorite draft day memories. We'll be back. I'm Behind Enemy Lines.
What's the difference between the shirt you're currently wearing and the one that I am? Well, both do their job of concealing us from the outside world and social boundaries. But one little black swoosh makes yours cost nearly double. That red rectangle may not change how warm you are, but it certainly changes the price tag. The truth is, nobody cares about the details. Get to the point with GenericClothes.com. Have a laugh at the big brand clothing company's expense with shirts that simply say sports team, political statement, music band, and more. A shirt for any occasion and the perfect gift. GenericClothes.com.
You're listening to WSRR Radio. Hopefully, not in the airport. I've got a bomb!
Welcome back to Behind Enemy Lines right here on WSRR Radio, brought to you by Synergy Music Studio. Based out of Chicago, Synergy Music Studio offers a diverse array of musical services specifically crafted to meet our clients' needs, from recording to mixing and production. Discover how they can bring your vision to life at synergymusicstudio.com. And I have seen a lot of a diverse arrays of musical services specifically crafted to meet my needs, recording and mixing and production, mostly on TikTok. And it's all songs about our glorious king, LeBron. Dom, have you seen the trend now of making songs about LeBron?
I had not seen this until today, probably about an hour before we started recording. I saw top 5 LeBron songs, and listen, I'm like anybody else. If I see a top 5 anything, I gotta watch it. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm watching to see what the top 5 is.
You gotta see their
even
list.
if I have no opinion on the matter. I'm like, I gotta see what this top 5 is. So this one was, top 5 LeBron songs. I saw it and I didn't think much of it. There was one part of it I laughed out loud about. It was a Promiscuous by, who sings that?
Promiscuous Girl by, I don't even know.
Nelly.
Yeah, I think so.
Not Nelly Furtado.
Just
And
Nelly.
it was like, oh, Mr. LeBron, wherever you are. You know how it goes, everybody.
Yeah. Oh yeah, look it up. If you haven't heard
And I was like,
Promiscuous
that's pretty
LeBron,
funny.
if you haven't heard Promiscuous Braun, you have to. It's just spectacular. Look
And
that
that was
up.
the first time I'd seen it. And Lucas, funny enough, mentioned it. I was going to send it to him, but I thought it was too dumb.
You thought it was too niche
Well,
that
this
I
is
wouldn't
funny.
get it?
I thought it was like, this is way too brain rot for Lucas or anyone to laugh at for that matter. But he brought it up. He said, we need to talk about this on the show. And I said, I'm all in. Tell me all about it. I'm all ears.
Yeah. So pretty much every 2 or 3 slides on my TikTok now, I just get different LeBron songs. So today I even stumbled upon an account called La Radio Station, and it's just all of these LeBron songs. I've sent them pretty much every one that I've seen on my TikTok to a friend of mine, Carter, who's also a bronsexual like myself. And I'll count how many I've sent him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's see, 11. Let's see. I think there's been 12 different LeBron songs. Oh, there's 13.
That's just called
13 LeBron
that's just called
songs
putting-
sent back and forth between me and my friend Carter, and they're all golden.
putting someone on.
Yes,
That's
it
all
is.
that
It
is.
really is. It's like sending
That's
someone
a
your
put
new
on.
favorite artist. It's my new favorite genre, which is LeBron Glaze songs. It's all glazing LeBron.
You know what's the worst? When you try to put on, this isn't like the first time anyone said this, but when you try to put on a song to your friend and you listen to the full song and then afterwards they're like, that was the worst thing I've ever heard in my life.
Oof. I've never had
That's
that.
the worst feeling ever. Really.
I must
I'm like,
have
bro,
really
you gotta
good
check
music
this out.
taste.
and then they listen to it, and they don't even stop like a minute in. They listen to the whole thing, like, yeah. Or they'll tell you like a week later, bro, that song you tried playing me, that was horrible.
Wow, you must just have
like, wow,
bad friends.
hurts.
I've never had that happen to me. That's kind of a douche thing to do.
Yeah, I was kind of. It actually stuck. It only happened that one time, but it stuck with me. It's actually like my best friend. And I was like, damn, I was trying to put a fella on.
That hurts.
It was a little bit different. I thought he'd mess with it, but he was like, nah, that wasn't it. And it hurts. But luckily, me and Lucas, we can agree on LeBron James songs being, fine art.
That's right. They're spectacular. They're the music of our generation, truly. I actually, just speaking of putting someone on to music, I just recently, in the past, what was it, 2-3 days ago, I sent someone a song, and me and this one guy from my football playing days in college at John Carroll University, we keep in touch simply by sending songs back and forth to each other that we think we'll like. We kind of found that we have similar music tastes, that like we have a very wide array of music that we like, different genres and stuff. So we'll send each other songs that we think we'll like, and usually we do, like it. And I sent him a song by this girl Claro a while ago, and I was like, "Oh, dude, you got to listen to this." And he kind of was like, "Oh yeah, that's not bad." And then I sent him another song by her that's just like, it's been stuck in my brain for weeks now. I was like, "Dude, if this don't put you on, I don't know what will." And I got the best feeling text ever. So he texted me back. He said, "Bro, you just put me on so hard. I just listened to that song back to back 2 times in a row because I like it so much." And then I said,
Wow.
"Okay, now listen to this one then." Same artist. And he was like, "Bro, thank you." And that will hit you in the heart. Like, that makes you feel
That
good.
is. And there's no higher compliment than a back-to-back play.
Yeah.
Because if you got to listen to it twice,
That's
that's just the best feeling. You're like, I didn't get it the first time. That hits a little too hard, but I don't think I fully got it. Let's run it back.
Sometimes
give him
it's
one
like
more.
that hit me, and like I didn't think the song was long enough. Like, I need to hear it again. You know what I mean? Like, it's like that I could listen, usually by the end of 3 or 4 minutes hearing the same melody or beat, it's like, okay, I got to hear a new thing. But sometimes it hits so good that you're just like, I could listen to this. The way you feel is you're like, I could listen to this melody for an hour. Of course, then, and another 5 minutes in, you're like, all right, next song. But sometimes it'll hit you in the right way,
Sometimes you just need to run that thing back a few times. Sometimes it just the same tunes just be hitting.
Sometimes it just hits like crack, honestly. If you want to hear the
Real.
song that I used to put him on, it's called Forever by Claro. 4, the number 4, and then ever. It's an absolute banger. It's not quite as good as some of the LeBron songs like Promiscuous Brown, but it goes.
Can't be.
It goes.
Can't be anywhere as good as Promiscuous Brown.
Mr. LeBron, you know how to.
Wherever you are.
Oh, Mr. LeBron, wherever you are,
play for the
Lakers, and you know how to ball. Like, that's just a genius line. Like, how can you get any better
lyricism.
than that? I sent you a tweet from a thread. Just after this is done, just go through a lot of them. There's like some by Adele. There's some rap ones. There's like Bruno Mars on there. There's a whole playlist of them that are just spectacular. If you don't know what we're on, if you're not hip to this, just look it up and you'll be delighted.
Now, sometimes people will say, actually a lot of times people will say, "Oh, this is AI slop. This is AI slop." If anything's made with AI, people in the comments are like, "This is AI slop. Why are you using AI?" That I think is why we need to be using AI right there. That's the finest use of AI that we have. None of this other stuff. We need all the AI chips. We need it to be devoted to this. LeBron James songs, LeBron James deep fakes where he's talking about like the economy or macroeconomics,
or
stuff that.
The deep fakes where he's like, I actually predicted the Titanic. I told them, I was like, don't get on that ship because there's icebergs out there. I love those ones too. Those are good.
We need our brightest minds. We need Google, Nvidia. We need all these big companies to get on this and to grow this LeBron AI universe, because it's the furthest thing from slop.
This is cutting edge. Like, this is what's going to push us into the next generation, like a higher plane of living, if you will. Like, there's going to be life before and after AI Bron songs.
Mm-hmm. It's basically like the third generation of the internet, some would say.
What's the best thing you've seen AI do, you think?
I mean, I gotta say, ChatGPT, it's pretty amazing. Especially at this point, it's gone pretty darn good.
What's the best thing though on TikTok that you've seen, like, visually, like, AI do that you're like, oh, that actually is like helpful in a way, or like has potential to like help? I don't know. You know, what's the most enchanting thing you've seen AI do? I have an answer off the top of my head.
That's an interesting one. As far as like visually, I guess I don't
know if you've seen these, but like,
yeah,
I've seen these AI videos where it's like POV, you wake up as I don't know, someone in the medieval ages, a knight in the medieval ages, and like you're walking through like a town that's like castles, and you know, you're wearing knight shit, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That to me is, as dumb as that is, it's like this could be used to like really throw kids into education about like how the past was, and like, you know, you could show how people used to live a little bit more and things like that.
Maybe. But all that stuff is like artificially designed, so is it really historically accurate? I think I was going to say, what I was trying to think of was like design, like architecture, stuff like that, I guess. If you wanted to like envision how like streets were supposed to be, you know, built, I don't know. I think visually AI isn't super impressive yet. I don't really know what it can do that people will want. What is anything visual that people really need from AI?
Yeah, I think AI needs to stop doing art, and people need to stop using AI for like art and visual things, and like, you know, even music, as much as I love LeBron songs. But on a serious note, like, we need to not use AI for things like that. We need to use it for like the squalor of life, like keeping things clean and like figuring out how to solve world hunger and like things like that, instead of, you know, humans should be in charge of making art and things like that. AI should be working for us in a way, you know what I mean? So that's my big brain take on AI for the day. This has been Behind Enemy Lines. Thank you guys so much for listening. Keep up with our March Madness bracket, and good luck to all those who have entered. Thanks for listening, and have a good one.
Go Johnnies, go Hogs. Peace.
The preceding program was a sponsored production. The views, claims, and ideas expressed may not represent those of WSRR Radio.